Hello, good evening, good evening. Um, 1 second. Sorry I'm running a couple minutes late tonight. It seems to be a habit. I think I need to make the stream start 5 minutes later on a Sunday. It just doesn't really work with me trying to get kids to bed. But good evening, please let me know if you can hear me okay. I think everything's looking good. So thanks for being here, obviously. And we are looking at army lists. That's what we do every Sunday night. Hello, few people here that we recognise: Dirty, Rezio, Life RPG, Will Cherry, Joseph. Actually, a lot of people here tonight. Thanks for being here, guys. I really do appreciate it. I hope you're having a good weekend, and hope you're ready to get into some army lists as well. And I think Brett did send me a message just before I got on stream here. So tomorrow night we're going to be playing against Brett's orc list, and it's a snakebite orc list, so that's going to be tough. And I guess it's probably, I'll be setting up the stream right after this game. So Brett just placed 15th in a GT out of 48 players with that just this weekend, so should be a fun game tomorrow night. Cool. Okay, your screen is orange. Yes, let me just turn off my thing. Thank you for reminding me the screen is orange. I have a filter on it that dulls blue light that I put on my desktop. It can be quite aggressive actually, but you know that thing they say about looking at blue light before you go to sleep. So that's what it does. It dulls the desktop right down to sort of a crazy orange to try and make it easy to go to sleep. But I'll turn it off. Cool. So it should be a fun game tomorrow night. Anyway, tonight we get 3 lists to get into, and they are from James Fisher, Life RPG, and from David. I guess David didn't give me a last name, but that's fair enough. And next week we have Florian, Sam Milbauer, and Robbie Murdoch. Murdoch, I think is how you say that. Murdoch, maybe it's a Scottish name. Cool. Okay. So I think without any further ado, we'll start looking at James' list. And it is the first one, and let me just make sure that it's not obscured by the chat. Right? If there's any problems with viewing stuff on the screen, let me know. Alright, so the list plays pretty much in the face of the opponent from turn 1, allowing Leviathan, I assume that's the Leviathan, to move up and take control of midboard, Forlorn Fury, a large death company, to meet with company champions and vets to push in the enemy front line. Sternguard can either clear screens or pop armor before the charge. A small group of death companies start in the sky and come down in turn 3 next to the priest with the Descent of the Angels to get +1 to hit for the hammers. Oh yeah, I guess Descent of the Angels does work with +1 to hit on the hammers. You're still going to make that charge, which is a little bit annoying. And we've talked a lot about making charge from deep strike and how unreliably they are. The program's called Flux, but f.lux. That's the program. Getflux.com, and yeah, it just makes you just choose how much. You basically choose how much blue light you want to get rid of in the time zones you want to get rid of it. It's pretty nice. I actually have a super expensive pair of glasses here. That are I guess if I put them there, you'll see these are actually prescription glasses, and they're tinted yellow. So I mean, I guess if I wasn't, same thing goes if you ever get headaches from, I was getting a lot of headaches. I stopped drinking caffeine so much, but I think I tried to get yellow glasses as well. Maybe there was a bit of I was getting 5 migraines a week at one point, now I get none. So I switched to have that thing to get rid of blue light, and I cut down a lot of caffeine. So I guess, but I mean, I was drinking 8 cups of coffee a day, and I smoked cigarettes. So of course, maybe quitting all that stuff has helped more the headaches and the glasses. But I was trying everything. So I do like the yellow glasses. They're nice. I hate 8-inch charge. I really want to get 6-inch shorter. 8-inch. When you say 8-inch charge, I mean you hate the roll of 8. 8 with rolling 8 to make a charge is really it's rough. It's tough. I mean, the best you can do is you can make it a roll of 7 with a reroll if you take like Chaplain. You take a Chaplain with Canticle of Hate, and maybe you take like a Terminator Chaplain or just a regular jump Chaplain, someone that can join from Deep Strike and do that. Yeah, well, it helps a lot on eye strain, I find. A lot of people at my work make fun of me for using the yellow, but like once you've used it for like 6 months, honestly, if you look at like screens that aren't yellow filtered, it's horrendous. And I don't know if you've got an iPhone. iPhone have this feature that automatically make the screen yellow. You just tell it what time you're going to bed, and it makes the screen yellow like an hour before you're going to bed. And it's pretty useful. I generally don't ever lie in bed not being able to sleep, even if I was using the computer like 5 minutes before I go to bed. Anyway, let's get into the list. Right. So it's a 6 CP battalion, 1996 points, 2 Blood Angel stratagems, and 2 relics of the chapter. I might spread some of this stuff out just so it's a little bit more readable. We've got a company veteran squad with Lightning Claw, Storm Shield, Lightning Claw, Storm Shield, Lightning Claw, Storm Shield, and 2 chainswords. Okay. Strange to put the 2 chainswords on the sergeant. I'd have thought you would have wanted... yeah, I mean, it's not a big deal, but I would have thought you would have wanted, like, one of the normal guys that's going to take the save to have the chainsword, right? Because he's going to die, and then that leaves your sergeant with your lightning claws, and the sergeant gets a bonus attack, so you get to reroll all. I mean, it's a minor change, but I think I would have the sergeant with 1 lightning claw, 1 chainsword, and give one of the chains, because you're not going to kill the sergeant first. He's got the better leadership, he's got an extra attack, right? So super minor change there, but I mean, company veterans, 4 of them. I was going to say 5 of them would help a lot now with retrieve Octavius data, but 4 of them is fine as well, and I guess the company veterans have bodyguards. I use a blue light filter for my phone, it's built in. Yeah, it is. The blue light is a... I guess if you're happy to look at like white light right until the time you go to bed, go for it. Alright, Chapter Master. Mastercrafted Relic Blade, Infernal Pistol, Visage of Death, Imperium Sword, Artisan of War. Okay, so Artisan of War to Mastercraft the Relic Blade, so you've got that 3 damage Relic Blade. Visage of Death for removing Obsec and -1 to hit in melee. Imperium Sword for reroll charges and +1 attack on the charge. +1 strength on the charge as well with Imperium Sword. So essentially what you get there is you kind of get like a Thunderhammer of old, right? Because you would have a Strength 8, -3 damage Relic Blade. Because Imperium Sword, and you would also get, I think, a captain gets 4 attacks. So on the charge you would get 6, potentially 7 with Savage Echoes. So pretty nice. Sanguinary Priest then, Icon of the Angel, and he's going to drop this down and try and use it for some reroll charges, so that's fine. We then have troops, and this must be... I was going to say, this is a battalion, so we've got 1 squad of Assault Intercessors, 1 squad of Incursors, and another squad of Incursors. I think this is all fine. Yeah, I mean, the formatting in this list is just a little bit weird. We then have our company champion, who is running the Blade of Triumph, so that's that 3 damage sword. I believe it's -3. I think it's +3 strength, so it's +3 strength, -3 AP, 3 damage. So another 3 damage sword in the list. He's also running Martial Exemplar, which means reroll charges for core and characters within 6. Shout out, I might need to jump away for 2 minutes if my daughter wakes up. I've got a baby monitor here in another room, but I'll be right back if that happens. We then have a small squad of Death Company, and 160 points now, his jump packs and 3 hammers and 2 chainswords. We then have a big squad of Death Company, 4 hammers, 2... Oh, the formatting is 4 hammers, I guess 2 Infernal Pistols. Oh, 2 Infernal Pistols with chainswords, and 4 with bolt pistols and chainswords. Okay. Yep, so 4 hammers and 2 Infernal Pistols essentially in the squad. And that'll be the Forlorn Fury, potentially, Death Company. I'm still not sure. I understand Death Company on Forlorn Fury, but when you're only starting with 6 CP, blowing 2 on a Forlorn Fury, leaving you 4 for the game. Bear in mind, you might want to reserve something. You come up against like Tau or something. You might want to reserve like a Dreadnought or Eradicators or something. You're really tight on CP. I've bought a lot of Thunderhammers from from eBay. Unfortunately, the Vanguard Veteran box comes with, I think, 4 Thunderhammers. What you can do, a good way to do it, like if you go to Games Workshop, like the actual official site, search like Vanguard Veterans. I mean, it sucks that they don't. Oh no, that's Element Games. It sucks that they don't sell the weapons. I've complained about this a lot. Like, where's Games Workshop's Vanguard Veterans? Like, it can't be on page 2, is it? Alright. I'm sure Vanguard Veterans come with like 4. If you're wanting the legit models, you can go on here and then you can click. I wouldn't advise buying it from here. I'd advise buying it from Element Games or something that's cheaper. There's 4 Thunderhammers on this sprue here. There's 4 Storm Shields. I think that's the problem with Vanguard Veterans, is you get 4 Storm Shields and 4 Thunderhammers, so you still can't make a whole squad. Not that I recommend going all Thunderhammers and Storm Shields and Vanguard Veterans, but it's a decent sprue if you just need to get a bunch. I mean, I guess Vanguard Veterans, you could use it if you give the Thunderhammers to the Death Company. You could then use the Vanguard Veteran models to make Company Veterans or something. A lot of people include Company Veterans. They are kind of handy. I guess the 4-man Company Veteran squad we have here could be used for engaging all fronts. We have a Leviathan Dreadnought with the Twin Volkites, the Gravflux, 2 Hunter Killers, and a Siege Drill, and the Meltagun. We have Sternguard Veterans with 4 Combi Meltas, Sergeant with Chainsword and Bolt Pistol. If you're going to have the Sergeant with a close combat weapon, I'd really like to find the points to make that close combat weapon actually worthwhile. I don't run Sternguard Veterans all that much. Blood Angels. I mean, I've got some Sternguard Veterans that are converted, but I really haven't used them in forever. Do they not get any good weapon power sword? I was going to say, can they not take Lightning Claws? You can take a Lightning Claw, but how many points is it? Is 5 on them? Oh, that sucks, considering it's 3 points on the Vanguard Veterans. Okay, so yeah, I guess you can't. I guess you've got 4 points left over in this list, but you just have to keep them. I would. A pity. We then have the Assault Terminators with 3 with Hammer and Shield, 2 with Lightning Claws, and the Teleport Homer. And I like that squad. That's what I've been painting the last few weeks. I think it's a good squad. There could be ways to make it better, which would be with the ability to like have a chaplain with Canticle of Hate, but I guess it's using them with the Sangre Priest could at least give you that free reroll on the charge. Going back to Sternguard Veterans for a second, Combi Meltas cost 5 points per model. Sternguard Veterans can take 2 heavy weapons. How much is multi-meltas? Okay. So you could have 4 combi weapons or 1 multi-melta. I guess in that sense it probably makes sense to have the 4 combi meltas. Just because it's 4 shots. And I guess you're putting them in a drop pod, which you've got here. You've also got the Whirlwind. In the drop pod, I guess it's the Sternguard Veterans and the Company Champion. Okay, yeah. And you hope to do a bit of damage with the Sternguard Veterans. So basically you can fit the Company Veterans, the Sternguard Veterans, and the Company Champion inside the drop pod. You can also forward deploy with some cursors. You can also have Death Company Marines, Forlorn Furies. So you can have a lot of stuff that goes in and charge on turn 1. Thanks for tuning in, Lord Lethargic. Happy Sunday to you. Brewing Biscuits is in the house as well. Blood Angel's Terminator box is 5 hammers and shields, but it's expensive, yeah, and I guess those hammers and shields aren't going to fit too well. You're going to have to do some converting if you want them to look good, I guess, on, like, jump units, right? But I guess if you did want a squad of Terminators with all lightning claws, that would be one way to get 5 hammers and shields. If we had an advanced in charge ability, I'd be all about Deep Strike, but I only like it on shooty units. Yeah, I mean, I prefer not to have to Deep Strike, but I think in the current meta, there's certainly been games that I have not been able to win without using Deep Strike. And I guess when you start using Deep Strike, you bring in an element of randomness. And sometimes that randomness will kick you in the ass, but I mean, there's only so much you can do with that. There is some sellers on eBay that will like combine postage and stuff for like individual Thunderhammers, but that can get expensive quickly. Okay, so Chapter Master with his 3 damage weapon, bunch of lightning claws, Company Veteran, Company Champion with his 3 damage weapon, 7 Thunderhammers here, plus 2 Infernal Pistols, that's 9. 4 Combi Meltas, the Leviathan, the 3 more Thunderhammers. You've got a good number of Thunderhammers in this list, and a good number of Lightning Claws, I guess. So you've got... Shouldn't have too many problems with -1 damage enemies, I would have thought. It feels like we don't see that many lists that run. I mean, like, you get 10 Thunderhammers in this list, and then you've got those 2-3 damage swords that are basically Thunderhammers with more AP and no -1 to hit, right? Quake Bolts would be nice. About the only character you could probably run the Quake Bolt on would be... No, I don't actually think you've got a character. You could run it on, like, the Company Veteran Sergeant or the Sternguard Sergeant could run a Quake Bolt. It would certainly help with the number of Thunderhammers you've got, but it's situational, and obviously Quake Bolts only hit on 3+. But, talking about element of randomness, John will get second turn in the game tomorrow night. Do you know what? Against Orcs, maybe the going second isn't so bad. Because he's going to move, like, if I go first and he's obscured. Do you know what? I'll go first tomorrow night, Mike, when I actually want to go second. That's the way that it will go. But going second against an Orc player is actually kind of fine, because you kind of know what he's going to do, right? He's going to run everything forward 6 inches or 10 inches. You probably just advance everything in turn 1. Because then in turn 2, he'll probably try and call his wag and move in advance and charge and try and get a bunch of turn 2 charges off. So, if I go first and move forward, I actually just make it easy for him. So, playing Orcs, maybe I actually kind of want to go second tomorrow night. But anyway, okay. One Dreadnought can be interesting in that, like, just having one could feel... You know, if you just have one Dreadnought, it's just one big target, the enemy bring it down, but I guess you've got a decent amount of turn 1 threat here. And I guess the cool thing about turn 1 threat is if you can wrap a few units up in combat, you make it difficult for your enemy. And that's one of the main things that I would be trying to do with your Forlorn Fury Death Company, or like a squad of Incursors. And although I went second against the Tau both times in the recent weeks, you know, I put a squad of Incursors on both sides, like 9 inches away from his deployment zone, with a view to, like, if I go first, I'm 3 inches away from his deployment zone, surely to God I can charge something and maybe wrap it in combat and just stop it shooting me. So, I think, the turn 1 threat is decent in this list. I personally don't run a huge amount of turn 1 threat, but I don't run a Sanguinary Priest currently. I'm thinking of bringing the Sanguinary Priest back. I was actually, you know, I might even tweak my list for tomorrow night actually and bring back Eradicators or something. But yeah, the turn 1 threat is decent. I do wonder, like, Sternguard veterans with combi meltas for 120 points against Eradicators for 135 points, or a couple of attack bikes for the same 120 points. I guess the only advantage is you've got that turn 1 threat. It's a little bit questionable to me. There's only 4 melta shots. You're only hitting on 3s. You'll probably make 3 hits. You wound on probably 3s, so you make a couple of wounds. If they don't have an invan, they can't save, but if they do have an invan, probably only get 1 goes through, so you're only talking like d6 damage, maybe 2d6 if you're lucky. And that would be the one reason... Roland Thomas, thank you for subscribing. That would be the one reason that I prefer the multi-meltas in the drop pod, because the multi-meltas will be within half range, so when you shoot them it'll be like d6 plus 2, which I think can actually make a big difference. I guess you would have to find like 20 points to make that work. Could make you could make your big Death Company squad 9 man. I don't know if there's a huge difference between 9 and 10. 5 chainsword attacks different? Probably not. You could then have 2 multi-meltas on that decent combat weapon that I mentioned on the sergeant and the veterans. Two multi-meltas will just be... they'll be better, because you'll have more range, and you'll also have potentially the additional plus 2 damage from half range. It's a little bit more scary for the enemy, I think. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about scoring, and then we might come back to some other things. So OBSEC, we've got those 3 units. We also have Visage of Death, so we'll go for like a 9 on OBSEC. Anti-infantry shooting is kind of lighter in this list. You get the Whirlwind. I guess you've got a couple of bolters coming out of the drop pod. Maybe some other bolters coming out of Inceptors and stuff, but nothing major. And then it's down to Leviathan to do the rest of it. So I'd say like anti-infantry shooting is lower, quite a bit lower. Yeah, I mean, I just don't feel like you've got a ton to clear screens. You might not need to worry too much about clear screens, but the shooting does feel lower. Yeah. Okay. Anti-monster effectiveness. Well, we talked about the fact that there was 10 Thunderhammers in the list. There's 4 multi-meltas. There's then the Leviathan. And there's the 2 crazy swords on the characters. And then there's a bunch of lightning claws. So I think anti-monster reliably is quite high. You've got Chapter Master rerolls in there. You've got early assault doctrine on potentially 2 units from the Sanguinary Priest. You get that Forlorn Fury hit. I think it's very decent. Mobility wise is a weird one for this list, because you've got the drop pod that adds mobility to those units. You get the teleport homer as well on the Terminators, so it's probably like an 8. I mean, once you drop the drop pod, it's obviously not mobile, but I guess as long as you drop it clever on an objective or something, then you're all good. Hello Kevin, good afternoon. Yeah. How was your weekend at the 25th anniversary of Warhammer World, Mark? And then specialization. So we've got Fight Last. We don't have Denies. We kind of have enough units for actions. We have 3 damage weapons. We don't have that many CP, especially if we're going to Forlorn Fury our 10-man Death Company. We're going to be kind of starving on CP. But we do have some protection against mortal wounds, and the Death Company have an inherent protection, and the Sanguinary Priest has some protection as well. So I guess just no denies and CP are the problems here, so maybe like an 8-5. So it's probably one of the higher scoring Death Company lists that we've seen. Obviously, Death Company went down, like, what, 10? Like, you would have saved 30 points on Death Company. Yeah, because it was minus 2 points per model. So that's probably why it scores a little bit higher. At that point, you basically get 2 more Thunder Hammers in the Death Company, kind of for free, right? Oh, I missed that there was Infernal Pistols in the Death Company as well, yeah. So there's a lot of close combat, there's a lot of good punch. There's not much to deal with horde/screens. I mean, that's only in terms of shooting, right? You do have a shitload of Death Company chainswords coming in. Just, like if you've paid 300 points on a Death Company, you do not want them to have to target some crappy unit because the enemy's got a giant screen. Sometimes that can happen. Sometimes it's unavoidable if you go heavy in the melee. It's one of the things that we have to deal with. I guess the important thing to remember is that, like, jump over those units if you can. Only engage key targets, or try and multi-charge and just put a couple of chainswords into the screen. And 2 Death Company guys with chainswords is still a lot of attacks, and they're probably going to be wounding on 2s against any sort of horde-based stuff. Except maybe orcs, they're probably wounding on a bit higher numbers. I tried a similar list with Death Company, the drop pod instead of the Sternguard, but I was unable to pop transports on turn 1. Yeah, that's why I think multi-Maltas would be better in the Sternguard squad. If you end up hitting a Rhino, you're 2d6. Like the chance Rhinos are 11 wounds, right? Or Rhinos for Space Marines are 11 wounds, and Rhinos for Sisters are 10 wounds. I forget. I never run Rhinos, but I know that Sisters players run Rhinos. They're 10 wounds for Blood Angels. Can I just drop this down and select Sisters of Battle? No. I think there are a different number of wounds for Sisters of Battle. Could be wrong. Dedicated transport. No, okay, they're 10 wounds for both. Okay, so if the Sisters, let's say you're playing Sisters, and I still think Sisters are a strong army. If you hit the Rhino with, let's say, so you've got 4 Melta shots, you hit on 3s, so 3 go through, you wound on 3s, so 2 go through. You're trying to you need to roll over 10 on 2d6. So the chances of you opening up that Rhino with your Meltas are pretty small. If you manage to drop the drop pod in half range, and you're now hitting on d6 plus 2, you've got 4 damage before you even start rolling, so now you just need a 6 on 2 dice. And the average you get on 2 dice is 7. So on average, you should kill, you should be able to pop a Rhino with multi-Meltas on the Sternguards, which I think is nice. Which is nice. We might have gotten the Blood Angels Commander a Special Inquisitor model. I am drawing a complete blank on that Inquisitor mark. Where will I find a picture of him? There was a Special Inquisitor, and how much do I owe you? You'll need to ping me on Discord. There was a Special Inquisitor. Was he only available at the 25th anniversary? Yeah, multi-Melta is 2 shots per gun. And it's going to cost more points. Like 4 combi Meltas is 20 points, 2 multi-Meltas is 40 points. But if it was me and you're in, if you use Sisters of Battle as an example, if they have a Rhino that's full of Repentia, if you've ever fought Repentia, you'll know that they just murder Space Marines. They absolutely murder them. They're basically designed to kill Space Marines. It's not even funny how badly they kill Marines, because is this right? Is this their profile? Yeah, so weapon skill 3+, each time an attack is made from this weapon, subtract 1. So they're only hitting on 4s, but they get to reroll everything. I don't remember. I think it's if they're Bloody Rose or something, they can just reroll everything, and Bloody Rose is one of the main ones that Sisters have. You basically end up with I don't think Bloody Rose gives them an additional attack on the charge. Oh no, it's probably is it Sacred Rites? I haven't played Sisters in a while, but they can definitely get 4 attacks per model, and they can definitely reroll all their hits, and then they're basically strength 6. -3 AP, so Marines have no decent save against this, and it's 2 damage. And I think the repentia actually went up. I think they were 12 points per model before, but even now at 14 points per model, into like a squad of Sternguard, they can just destroy them. And they also have an ability where they can fight even if you kill them, right? So, and they can get exploding 6s as well, apparently, or they can get 6s automatically wound the target. So you can never let them into combat. So if you let them into combat, you're just going to lose your unit. Even if you're going to kill them first, you're going to lose your unit. So yeah, if that's a strategy, then I think having if this is your strategy, then I think having multi-metas in the squad is more important than combi metas. And it kind of makes me want to look at Devastators for a second. Because Devastators are 18 points per model. It's a little bit cheaper, right? I was trying to remember the Sergeant. In your shooting phase, yeah, okay. So you might actually want to run a Devastator squad here, because the Sergeant, if he chooses not to shoot, you can select one model in the unit until the end of the phase. That model has a ballistic skill of 2+. So, essentially what I mean, and then technically you could pay 5 points for the Cherub, which I think would be useful. And how much a multi-meta on these guys is what? The same 20 points. Yeah, so 18 times 5 is 90 points. So you actually only need to find 10 points, 15 if you take the Cherub. But an interesting trick you can do with this is is the model that is on the 2+ ballistic skill is the model that you use the Cherub on, right? Because you don't have to use you just use the Cherub and one model in the unit can shoot again. So you'd actually pay 15 points more here. Is that right? You would go from 120 point Sternguard, getting 2 meltagun shots, into 135 point Devastator, getting 3 multi-meltas, which is essentially 6 shots, but 4 of the shots would be on +1 to hit because you're able to make them +1 to hit. I wanted to check that Sigum rule if it was something you had to do in the movement phase, but no, it's the shooting phase. So that's fine. You disembark the drop pod, and then disembark the drop pod. Use your words, John, and then you shoot, right? Okay, so I think it's a decent list. I think it's got a nice sort of alpha strike, but I think you could make it better with the Devastator squad. Oh, cool! This is the model we're talking about. Okay. And what is he? He's just a standard Inquisitor that you can just make however you want with a sword. And what is he? Is he fine cast or is he actually plastic? Cool model though, isn't he? The Inquisitors might actually be quite useful with the changes to that new secondary psychic interrogation, right? Yeah, hitting on 3s with the Cherub if you disembark the drop pod, yeah? Because the Devastators will count as moving, correct. I've seen a couple of people run a mix of multi-metas and grav cannons. You can use the Cherub to increase anti-tank or anti-heavy infantry. Yeah, grav cannons are the other good one for the Devastators, aren't they? The grav cannons are only 10 points, heavy 4, 5 -3, 1, and if the model has a 3+ or better save, then it's 2 damage. But yeah, if you're trying to pop transports, I guess multi-meltas obviously are good. Multi-meltas at half range are +2 damage, and having that Cherub in there, it seems like a no-brainer to pay those 15 points. And like you almost 100% are killing a Rhino at that point, right? I've seen yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's some feedback on that list. I hope that's useful. James? I think that's my biggest gripe. I generally like Thunderhammers now. But yeah, I mean, Quake Bolts would give you a lot of value in this list. I just wish you had more CP. I don't know how you would get more CP, right? Like maybe your company champion doesn't need to run the Blade of Triumph. Like, is a Mastercrafted Power Sword okay for him? I mean, you feel like you've still probably got enough 3 damage weapons elsewhere. Would him having a 3 damage weapon over him having Quake Bolts or something just be better, I guess? Or the Devastator Sergeant, I guess, could take Quake Bolts. But then I guess that would mess up actually. Oh, hold on. The Devastator Sergeant can still shoot. Is that right? I think in the old edition, if you did this, he couldn't shoot. Have they changed the wording on that? Can the Devastator Sergeant shoot? And if he makes something +1 to hit? Because if he can, then could the Devastator Sergeant take the Quake Bolts, and then just when you desperately need the Quake Bolts to go off, just make himself +1 to hit? I definitely feel like it used to say that you couldn't, like the Sergeant basically had to not shoot when he was doing Quake Bolts. Yeah, sounds like he can just make himself +1 to hit, I guess, or BS2. Yeah, he could take a combi melt as well. I'm a fan of Sternguard, but always have them hot off the table after exiting the drop pod myself. Yeah, I mean, that's something that can happen. There's not much you can do about that. Okay, interesting. Couple of things. I feel like, I guess those points are something that I feel like might help. Okay, we're looking at Life RPG's next list. So I appreciate you being in the chat tonight, Life RPG. And as far as like Devastators go, you don't, James, I'm not sure you need to order them. You could just, like, if you've got well, I guess if you don't have any multi-meltas on Firstborn Marines, you would order them, yeah. And I guess you get the Sherb in the box as well. I think that would make the list stronger. Would definitely give you more reliability killing transports. And I guess the reason that I like Quake Bolt so much, and some people don't like it, is, let's say you do give that captain a +1 damage sword, like the champion, he attacks like 1 or 2 times throughout the game. If you manage to get Quake Bolts off once, and then a whole squad attack in with +1 to hit, that's going to do way more damage than the +1 damage on a sword for a single round of combat, or even 2 rounds of combat or something, right? You only get 2 multi-meltas in the Devastator box. Okay, so if you want to go more multi-meltas, then you need to go on eBay or. I mean, I guess if I was making Devastators and there's only 2 multi-meltas in the box, then I would probably do what other people said already: is 2 multi-meltas and another 2 Gravs. Or you might need them with just standard bolters to keep them cheap. All right, let's have a look at Life RPG's list next, and it's also 1996 points, and he's starting with 4 CP, which sounds horrific, to be honest. I started a bunch of games like on 3 and 4 CP, and it can be pretty rough, but okay. So it's a Vanguard detachment, Angels Exemplar, Relics of the Chapter, ×2. We've got the Chapter Master and Terminator Armor. He is Creation Born. He has Gift of Foresight. He has a Chain Fist. Okay, I mean, we don't often see a Chapter Master with a Chain Fist. Actually, didn't even know you could do that. And he has the Crimson Plate, which lets him advance and charge, and a Thunder Hammer. Okay, I mean, is this valid? Can you do all that? I had no idea. What is he, just like a captain in Terminator Armor? He can take a Chain Fist? Stormbolter and Power Sword. You can take the Thunderhammer for sure. Are you giving him a Chain Fist? Oh. It's here, it just doesn't say you can take it. Yeah, it's strange. It just, I guess the text here may be wrong. It just doesn't say you can take it. Okay. Okay, and you've changed Iron Result, Gift of Foresight for Iron Result. Okay. So Captain Terminator Armor is 6 wounds. This will be 7 wounds with a 6-up shrug. Creation Born is evades me right now. I think it's like exploding attacks. Don't play Flesh Tearers all that often. Each time the Warlord declares a charge, okay, so they can't fire Overwatch, they're set to defend, and you can reroll the charges. Okay, so it's a bit kind of like Imperium Sword, but maybe a little bit more situational. What's the advantage of a Chain Fist against a Thunderhammer, right? Like, they're similar. They're so similar, though. The Thunderhammer is ×2 strength. I guess that's the AP the Chain Fist gives? Okay, maybe just some AP and more reliability into vehicles. I could get on board with that. We then have aren't Flesh Tearer locked to their own Warlord traits? Yes, they are. I think that's why he said that he changed that one. Okay, Death Company Captain, and he has a Jump Pack, a Relic Blade, a Storm Shield. He has Imperium Sword and Visage of Death. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's fine, I guess. I wish that you had a Bite Captain, because I think the Bite Captain is 10 points cheaper, and I think he gets +1 wound and +1 toughness. But I know some people prefer Jump Captains, and I know Jump units are more thematically in line with Blood Angels. But for me, I'm like, I prefer to win, and if I can save 10 points and get +1 strength and +1 wound, then I'm probably going to take that. What's the deadline for the painting competition? I was going to announce it next week. I'm going to probably announce it on the 12th, and it's probably going to finish by the end of next week. So I'd say like probably like the 16th is going to be the deadline for the painting competition, something like that. We then have a tactical squad, and I guess we've got 1 heavy bolter in the tactical squad because there is a stratagem that you can do some extra damage with a heavy bolter. It can be useful against like Catan. It's kind of a niche play. I don't think it's super strong, but I do understand why some people would take it. I obviously prefer Incursors, and I think Incursors are good in Flesh Tearers as well. For me, the Jump Pack over the bike was to keep up with Jump Pack troops and not get left behind going around terrain. That is true as well. I think if you play the bikes for a long enough time, you kind of start thinking about that. And I generally don't find my bikes have that much problems with movement, but yeah, I can understand why you would prefer the Jump Captain. We have a Death Company here. 2 Thunderhammers, 1 Infernal Pistol. We have another Death Company, 2 Thunderhammers, 1 Infernal Pistol. Okay, Infernal Pistol seem to be making a resurgence in Death Company. We haven't seen this for a long time. I guess with the reduced points of the Death Company, kind of makes sense. Scout Squad. And I assume that if there's a Scout Squad, this Scout has Sniper Rifle, Heavy Bolter, and some Bolt Guns. I guess, again, probably like situationally, you just want to be able to do some mortal wounds to Catan or something like that. Big squad of Vanguard veterans here. 3 Thunderhammers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 3 hammer. So this is a 10-man squad, right? Basically 4 Thunderhammers and 4 with Lightning Claws. So a very solid Vanguard veteran squad that could be combat squadded as we get into the battlefield. Another Vanguard veteran squad with hammers, Lightning Claws again. And just a point of note here, it is interesting to see, you know, if we went back 6 months, it would be all about Sternguard, it would be multiple Sternguard squads, but because of the prevalence of -1 damage, and it's in a lot of armies, right? And I mean, I'm going to fight into, I think it's those snakebite orcs tomorrow, which is like, if I'm not toughness 8, then it's -1 damage. So like Sternguard in those situations are kind of terrible. So it's interesting to see that we've got a big shift in some of these lists toward more Thunderhammers, more Lightning Claws, and maybe just in general less Sternguard. I mean, Sternguard are 32 points a model are crazy expensive for what they actually bring, I feel like. I thought at 30 points per model they were probably still too expensive, but up at 32 they're very expensive. So I guess swapping out some of those Sternguards for big Death Company blobs kind of makes sense with Infernal Pistols and Thunderhammers. And I guess the one thing to say is if you are going the big Death Company, and these aren't big Death Company, but the big Death Company might be worth actually taking like somebody that can boost their leadership, like a Chaplain or Astroth or something. I know that doesn't work for Flesh Tears, but a Chaplain would work to give them leadership 9, right? I mean, I'm not dropping Sternguard out of my list right now, but I am considering, I think, in the next... Once I finish painting those Terminators I've been working on, maybe I'm going to paint like 3 or 4 more Death Company with like Infernal Pistols and Hammers. Give myself an option for dropping the Sternguard and bringing like a bunch of Death Company with Hammers and Infernal Pistols. Okay, we get two squads of Land Speeders here, and they're all Tornadoes, and they all got Assault Cannons and Multi-Meltas. I think when we looked at Tornadoes, we didn't think they were super competitively costed, because like a regular Land Speeder is like 70 points with a Multi-Melta. So you're kind of paying like, what, 20 points for an Assault Cannon? Is there actually any difference between the Tornadoes, like its survivability, and the regular Land Speeder? Fast Attack Tornado against a Land Speeder, because a Land Speeder is going to be 70 points with a Multi-Melta, Toughness 6, 6 wounds, 3 up save. Also synergize with Whirlwind if you have one. Yeah, so the Tornado is the same, Toughness 6, 6 wounds, 3 up save. So yeah, you're kind of paying 20 points for an Assault Cannon. I'm not sure why they're so expensive, to be honest. Unless I'm missing something. So, I mean, you're probably in a situation where you have 6 Tornadoes made. So it'd be like, it's kind of horrible for me to say, like, go and make yourself 6 regular Land Speeders, because you'll save like 120 points for 6 Assault Cannons. But I guess that kind of is what it is. 20 points for an Assault Cannon and 2 less movement, says Daniel. Yeah, I mean, Tornadoes just have a, like, this is the problem with a lot of, oh, the weapons are magnetized, then you're a genius. Then run these as regular Land Speeders, lose the Assault Cannons. There's better ways, surely there's better ways you could spend 120 points. I mean, 120 points is pretty much a Whirlwind, which means as a Flesh Terror player with like all this charging, well, yeah, 120 points is a Whirlwind or a squad of Suppressors, I guess. Right, Suppressors, like if you're playing against Tau, Suppressors would be pretty useful in that like battle suits and crisis suits and all this shit are all infantry. So Suppressors are going to shut down like a lot of the Tau Overwatch. 48-inch range, so you can hide them right at the back of the board, hopefully. Could be something to consider. I mean, Suppressors don't do any damage, but they will shut down Overwatch, which would save like a lot of your units' lives. Oh, there was an updated list. I guess I didn't see it, but yeah, okay. Just I guess in general for anyone that's got Tornadoes, because I've got a couple of Tornadoes and I don't run them, and yeah, I mean, I bought like a regular Land Speeder recently. I'm on the fence about buying more, but yeah, the Tornadoes for me seem too expensive. The last Fusel Eliminators with the Sergeant with the Bolt Carbine and Quake Bolts is obviously very useful. Again, Quake bolts will give you a huge amount of value to something like Flesh Tearers. If you're ever doing any deep strike charging as well, and you use Descent of the Angels, you get a lot of value out of the Quake bolts. And then the Storm makes sense because you're going to have the Storm, you're going to have the Scouts, you're going to do some shenanigans around there. Probably you're going Relentless Assault, right? So the thing that got you away from the Tornadoes was the synergy with the Whirlwind. Yeah, and I mean, I guess if you got 6 land speeders, the synergy with the Whirlwind is going to help. Off the top of my head, in what type of battalion was this? Was a Vanguard, wasn't it? Yeah. Is a Vanguard just 2 fast attack slots, is it? Because I guess if it wasn't 2, if it was 3, I would split these land speeders up into 3 squads of 2, but yeah, and I mean a regular land speeder is going to be cheaper for a Tornado for reserving it is 4 power level, or land speeder is 3. So 3 land speeders can be reserved for 1 CP as well. You're not always going to want to do that, but it can help you. It can make the opponent worry, especially if you've got basically like 6 multi-meltas coming in within half range to do a bunch of damage. I want to try that Gravis Captain as a Death Company guy with a power sword, 10 attacks on the charge. I think could be cool. Yeah, I kind of want to try that Gravis Captain as well, but I think if you Mastercraft his Claw, Kevin, or the Bolt Storm Gauntlet, like the melee part of it, that's probably what I would do. I think that's going to give you, like, I think it was going to be 9 attacks at damage 3, and then you can get, like, 2 attacks on the power sword, or, if it was a chain sword, you could get 3. It'd be interesting. As we speak, I'm picking up the Grav Captain as Death Company. Nice, nice. I think he would be a cool little fun character as Death Company for sure. Okay, so it's a list submission which I've been using for a while and has been working well from 8th edition to now. It's a Flesh Tearers list, so it loses out in the +1 to charge, but I find it fun with the relics available. The fast-moving Terminator Captain catches most off guard, as you can just walk him away, you can't overwatch him, reroll charge, etc. Eliminators are mobile rather than static, with the Quake Bolts and the Sergeant. They always have shoot moving to keep up with the jump pack troops, and giving you a rather reliable 2+ Quake Bolt shots. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's a good point. The Quake Bolts are always going to be in 2+, because the Sergeant has the assault weapon. I guess you can move around a lot with those and get the Quake Bolts off. The large vet squad is combat squad and supports the Flesh Tearers Captain, otherwise just providing multiple threat vectors. The 6 land speeder tornadoes generally stay on the table. Could keep 1 off the table, but as you can see, run quite low in CP. And Scouts and Landspeeder Storm get them off the table to grab an early objective. I really thought your Scouts and Landspeeder Storm would be for Relentless Assault. Because it feels like with the Landspeeders and the Death Company and the Storm, you really could go Relentless Assault on here. And I think I've been looking at Relentless Assault a lot, actually, in the recent weeks, because it's been harder and harder to get wins as Blood Angels, and trying to think outside the box. One of the things that keeps coming up to me is like, maybe we need to double down a bit harder on Relentless Assault. It's probably the best secondary I have in terms of being able to get like 15 points, and you can max the 15 points in just 4 turns, so you can basically ignore 1 turn of it and still get 15 points. You'd actually get 16, but you don't score 16. So that's something that I have been thinking about a lot. I never thought about mastercrafting him. That's a great idea. Yeah, I mean, another thing we saw last week on the Army List show is this list doesn't have it, but if we went back to the previous list, the Terminator Sergeant, some people were mastercrafted the Terminator Sergeant's Thunderhammer, and I actually thought that was genius, because like a lot of the time when I use my Terminators, I usually end up paying like 1 CP for Fury of the First. So if I had and I usually I run Quake Bolts as well, so like your Fury of the First, you're Quake Bolting, so you potentially have Thunderhammers hitting on 2s, and then you've got this 4 damage Thunderhammer. Just popping in to stay peekaboo. Thanks for popping in, Odd Sods. And yeah, if you enjoyed today's stream, guys, I'd love it if you hit the like button. It really does help out, and other people. YouTube really likes to it only likes to show content to other people when they watch it for a long period of time or hit the like button. So if you want to do that for me, I'm appreciative. Okay. Yeah, the one thing that I think you might find is like lack of units for actions, right? Death Company can't do actions. You don't really want your Vanguard veterans sitting around doing actions. Your Eliminators are going to be Quake Bolting, and they're going to be pretty useful as well, so actions are maybe not really something that they're going to be doing either. The new secondaries, or the new primary pluses, the new maps are a bit more tricky, I found. Yeah, I mean, it feels like you maybe have to optimize your list a little bit around some of the new maps, and one of the things that definitely comes up for me is like having 3 units of troops helps a lot. And I used to run patrol and vanguards, and I used to starve myself of CP because I wanted like tons of elites to get lots of killing power. But the new maps with the primary plus, it kind of feels like being able to react and play the maps is also pretty important. You've popped an updated list in the list thread in Discord. Alright, let's have a quick look at. I'm sorry I missed that. Alright, I got it. One sec. Where do I down? There we go. Okay, so still have the Death Company captain. Oh yeah, because these Death Company got a little bit cheaper. So Thunderhammers, the Vanguard veteran. I guess they're just 3 squads of 5 now. Regular land speeders, eliminators, the Whirlwind with the Vengeance Launcher, and the Storm. The Vengeance Launcher is kind of wasted points, honestly. If you want the Whirlwind to always make it suppression fire, don't take the Vengeance Launcher. Because I've had times where I've almost failed to make suppression fire with the Castellan, and the Castellan's 2d6. Vengeance Launcher is 1d6. If you roll 1 hit, you're fucked. If you're paying the CP for suppression fire, right? This one, alright, yeah, okay, I like this more. Yeah, I do like this more. So losing the Storms, land speeders split up. You get 2 units of troops now. Oh shit, 1 second, I'll be right back. Alright, sorry about that. Yeah, I just had to move my kid from one bed to the other, no problem. Yeah, as soon as I sit down, that's when the kiddos need something. Yeah, that's literally life, isn't it? In a game, do you still hold objective even if you moved off it if no other unit has got onto it? Only if it says so, Ager, and pretty much that only happens for it has to be OBSEC units that held it. Some of the missions have those sticky objectives though, correct, says Kevin. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so yeah, this is better. The land speeders feel better, they feel better split up like that. I'd probably have the Vanguard veterans as one squad with the option to combat squad it. I feel like that's just a little bit more flexible. You got 5 CP this time round. Okay. You still got the Quake bolts on the Eliminators. Yeah, overall it's not bad. I'm trying to think if there's any improvement. Actions might be the one thing that you struggle on, but I haven't tried the... You still have the Landspeeder Storm, yeah. I haven't tried using the Landspeeder Storm and Scouts yet. I think if I was going to do it, I'd probably just put the knives on the Scouts. Just so that the Scouts get like a stupid amount of attacks. Because Scouts really don't kill... Like, in 8th edition, right, you had to run Scouts, basically. You had to run the... I forget exactly how it worked, actually, but you had to run battalions to get command points. Or you had to run detachments to get command points. So you always basically had to have, like, 3 squads of Scouts, 6 squads of Scouts, something like that. So everybody's got a load of Scouts. And Scouts don't kill anything with their guns. Like, they really don't. It's a strength 4 gun. Sometimes you rapid fire it. It's 1 damage. But I think you just give them the knives. It's +1 attack. So on the charge, like the Scout Sergeant gets 5 attacks. The regular Scouts get 4 attacks. So like 5 Scouts for what? If you keep them naked as well, 14 points per model. I should be able to do that in my head. 70 points, is that right? You get 21 attacks. And yeah, there's no AP on them. But 21 attacks with +1 to wound, potentially, isn't actually that bad for 70 points. How many points have you spent on your Scouts here? You spent 20 more points. Yeah, I mean, it's fine. I just don't think they do any damage. Scouts are toughness 4 as well, right? Yeah, so strength and toughness 4. So yeah, if you run into toughness 3 enemies, you wound them on 2s, hitting on 3s, 21 attacks, hitting on 3s, it's like 15 hits, wounding on 2s. 12? 12 saves, no AP or something? -1 AP if we're in turn 3, potentially. Like, I generally think Scouts are better with knives. I guess you could argue that you give them the camo cloaks and you put them in cover and stuff, but then they're getting fucking really, really expensive, like 18 points for a 1 wound model that if he's not in cover is just going to get killed, and in combat is just going to get killed. Mark has highlighted 30 items of janky shit for the Elder S episode of 3 grots. Need to cut this somehow down to be manageable. Yeah, I've told Kev to try and bring the most OP nonsense Elder list that he can bring in the next couple of weeks. Okay, so this is a decent list. Let me do a bit of scoring on it. OBSEC, we've got 1 unit of troops, but we do have Visage of Death, so I guess we'll give you like a 7 for that. Like, horde clearing wise, we don't have a lot of horde clear. It's kind of as poor as the last list in terms of like actual shooting out hordes, so that's probably a 7.5. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Thunderhammers there, 10 Thunderhammers. Captain with the Relic Blade is Master Crafted, so that's 11. Eliminators gives us 13, and then yeah, we've got over 23 damage weapons on this list, like 22, 23 or something. So we definitely have no problems killing monsters. We're about as strong as we could be. The only way we could be stronger probably is if we have Null Zone in this list. Mobility overall is actually very high. There's very few things that aren't mobile, and the only few things that aren't mobile are going to go in transport. So I think I'm going to give you like a 9.5 for mobility. I really think it's that high. I mean, the only thing that's not mobile are the infiltrators, which can be with guerrilla tactics, and the scouts, which are in the Landspeeder. Yeah, so then it comes on to specialization. So we've got Fight Last in terms of we've got the Whirlwind. We don't have Denies, but I'm not sure that's a huge deal. We may be a bit short on units for action, so maybe a point off for those last 2 points. 3 damage weapons is great. Starting CP was 5, right? So it's okay, so maybe another half point off. Protection against mortal wounds, we have none. So that might be an issue. So probably maybe an 8 overall. So 41.5 life RPG. But here's the thing, right? And this is why somebody put a comment this week on the video I put out. I put out that video on the guy that finished 6, Ben, or I think it's Ben Carlson, finished 6 at a GT, saying the scoring at the end is pointless. I was like, yeah, the scoring in the end is kind of pointless, but what it does, the main thing it does is it lets us compare one list to another list, right? You could win a tournament with a list that scores 30 points. So in that sense, the scoring is pointless. And I guess what I've also said before is you can't do all the things, right? If you try and do all 6 things, it's jack of all trades but master of none. You have to, this list doesn't have any protection against mortal wounds, but you could go to a GT and you never come up against an opponent that does mortal wounds, or you could go to GT and every single game the opponent do shitloads of mortal wounds and you get crucified, right? So it's you can't build a list that's going to do everything. And the scoring in some ways is irrelevant, but this is the scoring is for trying to see how we rate it and what if we could change. I know you're not playing against Crusher Stampede a lot. Maybe Anti-Horde isn't needed as much. I don't know. Still needs some. Yeah, exactly. So Anti-Horde maybe isn't needed as much right now, but it's not. How long before we see Imperial Guard again? They're getting a new codex, and if all the other codexes are anything to come by, they're going to be broken as all hell. And we're not going to be able to get anywhere near their tanks because they're going to be screened by hundreds of little infantry, catch-can gun jungle fighters. It's going to be an absolute nightmare. Life RPG says, thanks for reviewing and pointing out, much appreciated. I'll look at maybe popping in a librarian and another troop squad. Yeah, I think the thing, maybe that is the final point to say then, right? So I've been running 17 3 damage weapons on my list, I think it was. And 17 felt like I had plenty. Last time I played against Death Guard, I beat them. I didn't do so well against Custodes, but it was the first time playing against a new codex, and I didn't have Null Zone. And I think Null Zone is one of those powers where when you need it, you really fucking need it. And there's a few times in the last few years that I've dropped Null Zone. I'm I'm not sure I need this anymore, and then sometimes it just comes into its own in a huge effect. I played against Harlequins at a tournament, and he paid 2 or 3 CP to give a giant squad of jet bikes a 3-up invuln, and I just null zoned them and killed the entire squad in turn 1 or something. He moved them super aggressive. I just null zoned them and killed them all, and it kind of won me the game. So null zone is a weird one in that it can kind of be huge. The other thing to say is so if I think 17 3 damage weapons is plenty, you've got 2 here. Sorry, yeah, 2 here. The one in the Chapter Master, that's 3. The 2 in the Eliminator Squad, that's 5. 2 sets of 2 more here, that's 9. Another 2 11. Another 2 13. Another 2 15. Another 2 17. Another 2 19. And another 1 20. So arguably you could drop 1 squad of multi-meltas, and you only have 2 characters at this point, right? So you could take a Sangari Priest, buff them up, heal your guys, get your guys on Assault Doctrine earlier, or you could take that Null Zone Librarian. He actually costs 140 points precisely if you make him the Chief Librarian, and give him a jump pack, and both those would actually probably be fine. I think 15 3 damage or more weapons is probably plenty, and I think the other thing to mention is you've got a lot of Lightning Claws in here as well, and Lightning Claws with Blood Angels and or Flesh Tearers are pretty darn reliable too, so I don't know if you need more. I don't know if you need 23 damage or more weapons. So something to consider, Life. And sorry for starting on the wrong list. Thanks for sorting that out. the anti-horde aspect is massively reliant on close combat. Yeah, and I mean, I would say probably my army will score poorly on anti-horde. Like, if we have to, I guess my point is, with the scoring, sometimes you will have to shoot out hordes. If you can't shoot out hordes effectively, it will hurt you in some matchups. The scoring and the list is kind of like what you might expect from all the matchups, but you're never gonna, if you're building a tournament list, you need to think about everything. I started winning more when I added Null Zone. It's like you said, when you need it, it's gigantic, says Kevin. I appreciate someone else saying the same thing. I've been running Mephiston now for a few weeks, maybe like 3 or 4 weeks, just because it feels a little bit sad that we can never run Mephiston. But I think, like, if I was actually going to go to a tournament, I think I'd probably dropping Mephiston and bringing back the Jump Librarian with +1 to cast and the Null Zone and the Psychic Fortress, just because I think that is the strongest librarian. It just feels like I've played that librarian for like a year, and like I feel really sad that, like, even with this points cost, I think that's why I've given Mephiston a good run out, because you got a points cost drop. But even with his point cost drop, it still feels like I probably should just be running that Firstborn librarian. Run Mephiston for a few more weeks and then probably drop him. Okay. Dan says, I think I have a very different approach to building Blood Angels than you usually see. I'm returning for 5th edition and have all these models. I want a backline of some real heavy hitters while still having an assaulty frontline. I think the 2 different Sicarians and the Derodeos sit in a table quadrant just lobbing shots for anti-tank and big scary targets. The heavy intercessors aren't favoured, but I want them sitting back amongst those army units, tapping a rear objective. Would I bring a chaplain on a bike with outriders on turn 2 or 3 in reserve? The Death Company Dread runs with Assault Marines potentially using its Wisdom of the Ancient, and the Fight Twice strat on the larger Assault Squad to benefit from most of the close combat. We'll have to check that. I hope he means Assault Intercessors. The Venator's weapon stat is insane. If it just stays still, it can delete Dreadnoughts and most tanks, then having the Volkite Dread to back it up. Okay, so this is going to be a very shooting Blood Angels list, so let's see where we go with this, David. Starting on 8 CP as well. So we got Brother Corbulo. No Warlord trait or anything here, just Brother Corbulo. We got a Lieutenant, who is the Primaris Lieutenant from the Indomitus box, the one that's sitting behind me here. And he's given him Soul Warden, which is an interesting choice. I mean, Soul Warden is generally quite good. And then we've got a Primaris Chaplain on a bike. Speed of the Primarch as his Warlord trait, which I think is probably the wrong choice. Exoration of Rage and Canticle of Hate and Armor Indomitus. I think Gift of Foresight would be a better choice here. Speed of the Primarch essentially gives you a free interrupt, but like it's really not that strong. For the record, David, if you're returning since 5th and you're not 100% sure, even though the Warlord trait, Speed of the Primarch, says, I'm pretty sure it's going to say something. They should probably reword this Warlord trait, because it's going to be confusing for people that haven't played in a while, especially with all the fight mechanic changes. But this Warlord trait says, at the start of the fight phase, if the Warlord is in engagement range of enemy units, it can fight first that phase. Yeah, it's confusing. They need to update the wording on this. In the fight phase, there's essentially 3 sections. There's like charging units, which are fight first units. There's non-charging units, and then there's fight last units. Even as I say this, I'm not going to explain it so well, but they need to reword this, because if the enemy charges you, let's say a simple thing, they just charge your one character. They will fight first, even though your Speed of the Primarch says that you can fight first. So charging units will always fight first, or anything that has like a... So he'll... Yeah. By gaining the fight first ability, you'll move up from like... So normally the opponent would fight, then you would fight, right? So by gaining fight first, you move up into that top section. So you are in fight first, but the opponent will get to pick one unit first, because fighting is sequential, right? So like in the top section, fight first models, whoever's turn it is, picks first. In the middle section, which is like not fight first models, the opponent player picks one first, and then in the bottom section, I actually forget. It doesn't happen that often. It's confusing. But my point is, if the opponent had a single unit charge your Primaris Chaplain on a bike, they would fight first. Then you would be allowed to pick to fight first. So if they have 2 chargers on the map and they pick somewhere else to fight, then you could fight. But if they're charging your character and that's the only combat on the table, they're always going to fight before you, even with this Warlord trait, which means you could potentially die and never get any value out of this. So that's why I think Gift of Foresight is much better. They really need to reword. I'm surprised actually they haven't FAQ'd this. This is how much they've neglected Blood Angels. Is like they've left this in a situation where, like, I literally play Blood Angels every week. I have a giant YouTube channel about Blood Angels, and I can't fucking explain it because this wording is shit, and also the rules that they put out for it is also really confusing. In that, if you ever get to that third section, I actually don't know who fights first. I'm probably going to have to look up the FAQ. If 2 units are in the same section, it's the person whose turn it isn't that picks the unit first, I thought. Except that... yeah, exactly, Mike, it's confusing. Except on the person whose turn it is chooses for charging units. But charging units are fight first units. So it's like... I have to write this down. So you've got like fight first, fight normal, fight last. And it's like, on this one, it's players whose turn it is. This one is players whose turn it isn't. And this one is like, doesn't happen often. So I don't fucking know. But I mean, they need to reword that Warlord trait. But yeah, that's how it works. So this Warlord trait is not good. Change it out for Gift of Foresight. Alright, we then have Assault Intercessors, and we've got a 9-man squad, Sergeant with Thunderhammer, another 9-man squad, Sergeant with Thunderhammer, a 7-man squad, Sergeant with a Power Sword, Heavy Intercessors, and then Intercessors, which is a 6-man squad. Right, so straight off the bat, you get too many troop choices. Troops aren't that killy, period, anymore. Assault Intercessors with the fight twice is probably the only troop choice that can kill stuff. Heavy Intercessors will shoot each turn and maybe kill a Marine or 2. Intercessors will shoot each turn and maybe kill a single Marine if they're lucky. Assault Intercessors can do a little bit of damage in close combat, but nothing spectacular. So I would straight away try and cull. I personally run 3 troop choices of 5-mans, and that's what I'd probably aim for. Maybe I could let you do 4 troop choices of 5-mans, or like 2 of a 5 and then like a 10-man Assault Intercessor. If you want to go more than like 20 troop models, I think you're actually hurting yourself because troops don't do that much killing. I think they both fight last. Is the players whose turn it is. Okay, thanks for clarifying, Daniel. But yeah, I mean, it's so confusing. And the FAQ was fine enough, but like the fact that they haven't fixed that wording on the Blood Angels Warlord trait is kind of bad. We then have a Death Company Dreadnought with Meltagun and the Stormbolter and the Blood Talons. I think it's fine. I kind of prefer the Death Company Dreadnought with a Heavy Flamer, just to protect it a little bit against charge, but I can understand why you want the Meltagun to punch through some armor. You've got a Derodeo with the Twin Heavy Bolter and the Vulcanite Falcon Battery. We don't see that very often. I'm pretty sure it's Strength 6 -2 damage, and it's Heavy 6, and each 6 is a mortal wound. Or maybe it's each 6 is 2 mortal wounds. I forget. Heavy 6, Strength 8 -2 damage. Each 6 is 2 mortal wounds. So that's actually pretty good, yeah. Not great on the AP, but the fact that it can burst a bunch of mortal wounds is good. It's still an expensive dreadnought coming in at like 200 points. A squad of Outriders, and it's just 3 Outriders, which I guess is what you get for 150 points. I don't think Outriders are a good model for us. They're really not that survivable. They don't get that many attacks. Out with the charging turn, they don't really get a lot of attacks. You'd be much better off taking Vanguard veterans with Storm Shields and Lightning Claws. I think they're exact same number of points. I think they're both 150 points. I did a video on that exact topic, like Vanguard veterans, these Outriders. Hopefully my video will come up top yet. Are Primaris Outriders any good? Yeah, this is the one. No bullshit. That'll just tell you that, like, yeah, Outriders look cool. You would think that they would work well with Blood Angels, but Vanguard veterans just outperform them in just about every way, shape, or yeah, they're just much better. And that was before they changed Engage on All Fronts. So Engage on All Fronts now requires models or units to have at least 3 models in there. So if you lose a single Outrider, those Outriders would no longer score you Engage on All Fronts. So Vanguard veterans are just going to be even better. But Mike, they fall off so hard. They only get the +2 charge per model. When they charge, after that they only get 10 attacks. So if you can't kill what you're charging with 21 chainsword attacks, and 21 chainsword attacks hitting on 3s isn't that strong, right? Like, you know, like, throw a squad of 100 like Outriders into like a tactical squad or something, like something that's not even strong, right? Like, so you've got your 21 chainsword attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s as well, because you're strength 4 into T4, and then they're only -1. I guess, like, let's say it's turn 3, like you said, so that they're -2. So the tactical marines save on 5s. So tactical marines, anything less than 0.5 is a dead model. So, like, a squad of Outriders for 150 points on a charge, kill 3 tactical marines. Yeah, I mean, sure, you could maybe kill 1 with your bolt rifles, or maybe 1 or 2. But Outriders, I didn't like. They used to be 40 points per model. I thought they were average at 40 points. And then they put them to 45, and I thought, I'm definitely not taking them now. And then they put them to 50, and I was like, yeah, okay, I'm sad I wasted all this time painting them. But it's the fact that, like, after that, after your charge, they just, after your charge, you go down to 10 attacks. So if you hit on 3s and you wound on 4s, and they save now on 5s, you've got a 150 point model that can kill 1 tactical marine a turn, and you're stuck in combat with them. Because you can't fall back and do anything useful, right? I mean, maybe you could fire and fade, but, like, Outriders to me are not a good unit. You'll not see me include them in any army. Like, I just think they're that far off the pulse for us. They're good for White Scars. Maybe not so much anymore with Engage on All Fronts change, but not for us. We then have the Sicarian Battle Tank and the Sicarian Venator, and I'm just going to have to bring these up because I don't run either of these things very often. The Battle Tank is the one with the Heavy Bolter and the Autocannon, Strength 7, -2/3 damage. I mean, that's a decent autocannon. Sicarians are nice, and they've got a 2-up save, T7, 14 wounds. So some of our better tank options, but they are Martial Legacy, so including each one in the list is going to cost you 1 CP. And the Venator is the one that's got, like, the flat 6 damage cannon if you don't move. The Neuron Laser, heavy 3, strength 12, -3, D6 damage, but if you didn't move, it's flat 6. It's decent. It's decent again, same 2-up save. It makes me wonder, though, like, if you compare the Sicarian Venator to a Heavy Laser Destroyer, they're very similar again. The advantage, I guess, is the Heavy Laser Destroyer, I believe, doesn't have Martial Legacy, right? Where is it? Vindicator Laser Destroyer. What did I call that? Heavy Laser Destroyer? I meant Vindicator Laser Destroyer. So, 5 more points on the Laser Destroyer. The gun is arguably slightly better because if you do move, it's D3 +3 as opposed to D6. It's toughness 8, but a couple less wounds and slightly worse save, but it doesn't include martial legacy. So the Venator is fine. I guess because he hasn't included that many other things in terms of like warlord traits or relics, then he has a decent number of CP. But yeah, I think this list definitely, to me, feels like... Yeah, I mean, it's an older list. He said he's returning from 5th edition. I think if you're returning from 5th edition, then I think the first thing you need to do is decide on what jump units you're going to complement your list with, because you said at the start that you wanted like an assault-y force for close combat quarters, or close quarters combat. Like, I'm not seeing that at the moment, period. Outriders aren't that. They won't do enough damage. I mean, a Death Company Dreadnought is nice, but if it's just one Dreadnought marching across the board, it's not going to do that much damage, and your Assault Intercessors are going to get... Big squads like that are going to get picked off because you're going to struggle to get them all into cover. You're going to need to get some jump units. I'm really considering getting Vindicator Laser Destroyer. Yeah, I think I'm getting one this year, Rezio. And I think I'm getting... I think I'm going to get a Land Raider Proteus as well. Just because I like the idea of a Land Raider with an invulnerable save. I think that's a big weakness that they have at the moment. Unsave. And I know they're probably not the most competitive thing, but I think they'd be fun to run. Sometimes fun can be an important thing, right? I mean, if we're in a situation where like I don't think we can compete with the top tier armies anyway, then maybe fun is something that I'm going to do for a little while. Build some fun units like the Vindicator Laser Destroyer. Okay, so this list is a little bit confused. We'll do some scoring on it, though. I guess it's not confused. It's just an older edition list. You'll get 9 for OBSEC. I mean, you got 5 troop choices. You do have some decent firepower. I guess like the Sicarian will put out some firepower. The Deradeo will put out the Venator. I mean, those 3 things are actually fine. Like, I kind of like those choices. It's the Outriders and the oversaturation of troops that I don't like. And maybe also Corbelow doesn't make a whole heap of sense. Yeah, I mean, like, I just don't think Corbelow is that strong a character. If you've not watched my video on on all the HQs, then you should probably watch that video, because I talk about Corbelow quite a lot in that. So, Anti-Horde Infantry is probably a bit better than the previous lists. It's great. 3 damage weapons. I guess we've got a couple here. I guess I would class the Deradeo as having 1 because it can do 2. It can do a bunch of mortal wounds. The Dreadnought, and then I think that's kind of it. So we've got like 4 or 5 3 damage weapons. We do have some good shooting, but like our melee stuff really is struggling. Our mobility is also pretty bad in that, like, I often say that the Blood Angel's biggest strength is our mobility. Well, like, our Lieutenant and Corbelow aren't mobile. All these troops aren't mobile. There's no Phobos troops in here as well. And Phobos troops make up a lot of strength in their survivability and mobility. So I'm going to say mobility is like a 6. We don't have any way to fight last. We don't have any denies. I guess we've got a good number of units for actions. We certainly don't have enough 3 damage weapons. Our CP is fine, and we do have some protection against mortals. So it's like a 7-5 here on specialization. So, like I said, the score maybe doesn't always... The score you're getting here on this list, David, is actually probably a bit better than this list deserves, because if you play this at the highest level, you're going to really struggle. I feel like you have to swap out the Outriders for Vanguard Veterans. You need like 2 other fast-moving or survivable troop choice, elite choices in there. Be it Blade Guard Veterans, be it Assault Terminators, be it Death Company, more Vanguard Veterans, or Sanguinary Guard. Those are the 5 units that make Blood Angel strong. And if you don't have any of them, you're going to struggle. So I guess what you need to do is look long and hard at what you like most, and everybody in this room will give you different opinions. At the moment, I am running Vanguard Veterans, Sanguinary Guard, and Terminators. In the past, I have run Blade Guard, Sanguinary Guard, Vanguard Veterans, and Death Company with jump packs. So, yeah, I've run, I guess, all of them. over the last couple of years. With the meta, they're always changing, it's always fluctuating, but you definitely want to have a look at those and consider getting some of those in, because without them, you're going to struggle. So, yeah, I think that's... Dirty Wizard says he thinks he'd rather have Hellblasters over Heavy Intercessors. Yeah, I mean, Hellblasters are a cool unit. They're very expensive, though, Hellblasters, and they need a way to rewrite... They need a way to... reroll their ones, otherwise you could come on some other problems. It's a good list for another chapter, possibly. I mean, I think it's a jumping off point for Blood Angels. I think that's rather how I put it, right? Like, I have said for a while about 500 points of shooting can be very decent in Blood Angels. This gives you like 550 points of shooting. Is maybe a little high, but until you get going, it's fine, and it's a jumping off point. I think the jumping off point next would be to... You said you had all these models, so watch the elite tier list and get yourself some jump units and start switching out some of these troops, because troops generally don't kill things nearly effectively as our jump infantry. And the thing about the jump infantry with the advanced rolls, if you advance the jump infantry model, the minimum it will move is 14 inches, right? Because you'll move your 12 and you get +1 to all your advance, and then you roll a 1. So 14 inches usually lets you jump from obscuring position to obscuring position. You can't be shot. You can hide, and you can get across the battlefield. And doing that is really, really important. I used Hellblasters with the Chapter Master rerolls, and they wiped out a squad of Plague Marines in one shooting round yesterday. I do rate them. Yeah, do you know what? I tend to rate Inceptors over Hellblasters, but when you actually look at them, they're very similar, right? Hellblasters maybe have an edge right now because Inceptors kept getting hit with points hikes. The only thing to say is, Hellblasters, if you come up against Custodes and they turn off your rerolls, that's going to totally fuck you. And I guess if you come up against Deathguard, like -1 damage stuff kind of messes a little bit with Plasma as well. I'm not sure Plasma still need to kill the models on rolls of 1, honestly. I think it would be better if it was a mortal wound that you took, kind of like the Dreadnoughts, but it is what it is. I mean, like, I guess the Plasma Pistol and Mephiston is a prime example of why it's stupid. Like, Mephiston is never going to die to a Plasma Pistol exploding in his face, is he? Like, you know how powerful Mephiston is in the lore. If his Plasma Pistol explodes, yeah, it's gonna take away one of his arms. He's still gonna kill people with one arm. One arm Mephisto is still gonna be great, right? He's not gonna have a problem. So the pistols, the Plasma's killing your own models. You know, maybe that's something. Maybe that's one way that they could make. You know, like we're talking about ways they need to make Marines strong again. Well, maybe that's one of the things they could do, is they could remove the they can remove plasmas exploding on 1s. You know, like Tau's plasmas don't explode on 1s, and they do more damage than ours. The Tau plasmas are 3. Yeah, I agree. It probably should be a mortal wound. I think a mortal wound would be fine. You know, if you shoot a whole squad, you roll a couple of 1s, 2 mortal wounds off. I think the mortal wound is balanced. Killing a 60-point model on a roll of 1 is not balanced. But it's considering how strong all the other codexes are coming out, it's so far away from being balanced. It's stupid. Okay, alright. I think that kind of wraps us up for tonight, guys. So 3 cool lists. Congrats to James for kind of the strongest list, but life really wasn't that far behind. And like I said, the scoring is just for a little bit of... the scoring is a little bit for like overall comparison, as opposed to like, oh my god, this list scored 50 points, so it's going to kill everybody. Yeah, I am going to be back tomorrow night against Brett's tournament Snakebite Orc list. I think that was the last time I lost Orcs, was the Snakebite Orcs. They're surprisingly durable. That's probably why I did really well at the tournament. If you don't hit them with toughness 8 or less, then they're -1 damage. And I think the last time I played them, I had 2 squads of Sternguard and a squad of Blade Guard veterans, and both squads really underperformed against that. So I guess we'll see how we get on tomorrow. Would it be worth taking a Thunderfire Cannon along with the Tech Marine just sit in the backfield with the Whirlwind? I don't think the Thunderfire Cannon provides enough damage anymore. It used to be good, but like now I don't think so. I need to look it up. I think it's just like, is it like 4d3 strength 4 shots or something? Yeah, 4d3 strength 4 shots. Yeah, I mean, so what, an average 8 strength 4 shots? You hit on 2s. I mean, yeah, I don't think it's worth it for 120 points. It's less firepower than like a squad of tactical marines. Yeah, I would avoid Thunderfire Cannons for now. I don't think that. I think there's much better ways we could spend 120 points. The only thing that would be good to take them would be the Tremor Shells, where you can basically make like units that aren't flying, are not Titanic, half their movement and -2 to their charges and stuff like that. But I think the Whirlwind Suppression Fire is just a better option for us. Okay. Yeah, so I'll catch you tomorrow night, guys. Thanks so much for watching. And I appreciate the list submissions. If you don't want to submit a list, you can do that over on the community tab. There is a bit of a longer queue at the moment because we have had a lot of submissions for Chapter Approved 2022, but we will get to them all, so just bear with me. And enjoy the rest of the weekend, and thanks again for being here. I much appreciate it. By the blood are we made strong,